Episode 5: Stress, Threats, and Ultimatums. Scene 3: Operation Vitellius. Opening move. Vitellius looked to have the War Wings deal wrapped up. He had acceptance from all West African nations and finance arranged from China, who were to be the main benefactors. Banks was looking for a counter-offer which did not involve costly bidding wars. If he was to win the deal for Delange Martin, he would need a new plan. He was in need of inspiration. Fortunately, he lived in London, the city that keeps giving. He decided to visit his favourite cigar shop at the Ritz Hotel. While heading along Piccadilly, he took a detour to Reuters on Bond Street, where his old friend Danny McQuirk worked on Global News. As a long-in-the-tooth, cynical editor who had not amassed much wealth, he was always open to planting news, no matter how tainted. "How are you, Tom?" Danny had met Banks at university, and like Billy sometimes called him Tom. "Good. You?" "Great. How's Billy?" "Fine. Saw your car outside. Still driving the old Boxster then?" "That old banger." "Sure. The 99, it's a classic." "I know he drives a Bentley." "Listen, I just need you to spread a story in China." "Sure. No problemo." Danny called his cream team, his hottest and most dedicated writers, into the boardroom. "So, everybody listen up. This is Philip Banks. He's in finance. He has something very juicy for you." Ooh. Aged in their 20s and early 30s, Danny knew that the cream team would take his bait. So long as they did not dig too deep or become too creative, the story would flow. He allowed Banks to explain. "Hi, I'm Philip. We are getting inside from China of a problem aboard the space station Confucius-1. Rumours of a blackout. Possible power failure." "Okay, you heard the man. Ideas!" Danny rallied his team. "Come on, shoot!" "I did a piece on the Confucius one last year, refurbishment contract." "All right, tell me more." "Chinese put it out to tender. Volta Spazio won the contract for power packs. It was signed in New York." "Okay, what do we know about Volta Spazio?" "Italians are specialists in lightweight lithium battery technology." "Right, get on to it. Go to Italy if you have to." "Sure, Danny, at least on expenses." "Talk to Renee, she'll give you a budget." "Lynn, can you get me onto all the contacts in China? Trace the Chinese media. I want to know the moment anything spills, okay?" "Are we publishing, Danny?" The room went silent. McQuirk turned to Banks, who nodded his assent. "Once we have the evidence from China, it's going to be a runner, worldwide." The room fizzled with anticipation. "Everything by me, okay, guys? Let's go!" The cream team gathered their belongings and left the office. Banks and Danny bumped fists. "Catcha." Banks headed for the door. "Hey, Phil." "Yes?" "Get me a cigar, will you?" Banks nodded. "I'll send over a box." Danny beamed with joy. Banks felt disappointed. What a cheapskate. I was going to offer him a new car. Scene 4: The Dragon Roars. If the world was yet to learn of Premier Xiaoping's zero poverty and Xiaoping democracy, the shadows could think of nothing else. They reacted in different ways. Word soon got around to Peter of Russia, who made no attempt to contact Lord Martin or Reuben Segal or Rashid. Instead, he organised a military parade. If Napoleon had been alive, he would have chosen that day to invade. as Peter had tied up over 1 million military personnel for the spectacle. Premier Xiaoping was so grateful for Peter's dig at their foe that he ordered a dozen warships to trace the coast of Itrup, a Japanese island off the northern tip of Hokkaido, which was subject to a FIPA sovereignty dispute between Russia and Japan. Scene 5. Yacov's Dream. Back in New York, Reuben was considering all the ways he might form alliances, in view of the fact that Premier Li Xiaoping had determined to break ranks with their agreement to deal with the global population. He might form a partnership with Lord Martin, Peter, Rashid and Papa Boniface X against Li, or with Lord Martin, Rashid and Papa Boniface X against Li and Peter, or he might defect to support Premier Li Xiaoping and Peter against Lord Martin, Rashid and Papa Boniface X. These were complex times for the shadows. As a distraction, he agreed to see his son, who was at last considering a proper job. They sat in his Manhattan penthouse cum office on the 88th floor. "I'm not sure which job to take, Pa. Do I go Goldman or Barclays?" posed his son Yacoov. "See, you'll be joining as a new recruit. You gotta say to yourself, who's got the best John? Now, you're just as gone in as a recruit, so you gotta have to use the facilities. When you get to a partner, you get your own toilet, okay? That's when you know when you've made it. Think of it this way, right? There's a bug going around, and this bug cannot be beaten. Can't be anesthetized. You see what I'm saying? It's resistant, okay? Can knock you out, right? One visit, you're dead. You see what I'm saying?" Yacoov observed his father skeptically. "Now, you don't want to be doing that, right? Because you're always got to be looking after yourself. You got to get the partnership. Then you got to get your own toilet. You see me? I got my own John. That's why I work in New York. I know where my John is, okay? Now, not only that, you got to know who the cleaner is. Take Schulman. He's been working with me for the last 12 years, right? I got him checked out. I know where he lives. His son is in the 7th grade. What is it today? Yeah, today it's like Tuesday, right? His son is studying physical sciences, right? I know. It's 11 o'clock. His son's studying physical science. I am on top of the situation, you see? I'm on top of the situation. Now that's how thorough you gotta be." "You're telling me I should choose my career based on the toilets, Pa? Are you being serious?" "What are you talking? You come to me for advice. I'm trying to give you some good advice, right, son? I'm telling you, where you go now is important because the John you're going to be using is different in each firm, right? So you don't want to be doing some cheap, slap-happy place like Citibank, okay? Their Johns are a disgrace. It's like going to a ball game. You got piss everywhere, okay? You don't want to join Citi. You go to Bank of America. The John's a disgrace, right? It's like a shopping mall in there. You want to go to a quality firm where the Johns are good and where they got Harn towels, they got scent, they got hair lotion, right?" "Pa, I don't understand. It seems kind of like..." "Well, now you see. If you go to Goldman, the John's kind of like Trump Tower, right? It's got a lot of gold. It's got a lot of glass. But it's good, you know? But it's got no class about it, you know? You go to Barclays, you're getting wood. You're getting teak. You're getting marble, right? You're getting marble at Goldman's as well, but it's not as classy as Barclays, okay? Huh? But where you're right now, it doesn't really matter." His son was confused. Scene 6. Escape to the country. Having returned from China, Lord Martin was less than enthralled. He could see a collision with China building, but decided to escape to South America for repose. Flying to South America always involved a little island hopping. First stop was a refuel on Ponta Delgada, a small island off the coast of West Africa. Then he flew on to Belém, in the Mariano-Varenza region of northern Brazil, and finally onto the Bolivian capital of Sucre. A flank of dark limousines met him at the airport, courtesy of President Juan Pablo Bonito. Juan was the president of Philoboda, and had been so since 1999 when, thanks to Lord Martin's chequebook, it had ceded from Bolivia as an independent micronation. Philoboda was Lord Martin's bolt hole, a place where he could escape the worries of his wearisome empire and relax. It was rich in resources and sparsely populated, especially after the Purge. The Purge had been instituted just after they had seized the land from Bolivia. Everyone not in mining or agribusiness had been offered indented service to the state, or the opportunity to return to their homeland, Bolivia. Philoboda was a land of two parts, a peaceful colonial city and a landscape being torn apart by Lagos Mining and Shenzhen Minerals, who handled all oil and gas reserves and was staffed largely by workers from China. All companies were controlled by their majority shareholders, DeLonge Martin. Lord Martin had given Juan Pablo Bonito a very simple brief: ensure mining doesn't stop and maintain the peace. This achieved Lord Martin's objectives: profit and a place to walk, shoot, read books, and generally unwind in. The Lord stood with President Bonito in the presidential palace overlooking the central plaza. The architecture was colonial Portuguese. In the square, beneath them, holiday celebrations had been brought to an abrupt halt by the slum-dwelling trabalhadores who had taken over the streets. They carried placards and chanted anti-Chinese slogans. "Abajo con China! Abajo con China!" Would you credit it, Juan? Your people are as ungrateful and rebellious as my lot. Lord Martin loved South America, but was troubled by the Chinese presence, which was interfering with his world. He had been happy to smoke a cigar and shoot the breeze with Juan, but now all he got was complaints. Juan had much on his mind. Could there be a student under 25 who did not wear the red bandana of the Red Band Revolution? Once a symbol of hope and joy before the Purge, it had meant saviour from economic collapse. Back then, Juan had embraced China. He had been voted the most popular man in Philoboda due to his ties with China. But now, damn it, even his son Plebo was wearing the red bandana around the palace. "George, I tell you, I do not know how my son became so damn combativo." Juan parted the netting. "Ever since the Purge, you cannot trust the people." What he meant to say was that ever since he had unleashed his guards on the demonstrators, shooting 6 people, his public did not trust him. His bright costume with silk epaulettes, as worn by all the great leaders, was tailored in Savile Row, thanks to Lord Martin. He had even met the King last year, the King of Britain. His mother had actually been proud of him then, even though she did not recognize him as El Presidente. She was a staunch Republicano. He sighed. Was she safe? He envisioned her wiping the same cheap porcelain in her kitchen, the same plates and frippery she had used throughout his childhood, her grubby home with flock wallpaper and rural hacienda, wild horses and branded romanticism, popular among those with Portuguese heritage, who believed in the mythology of genealogical superiority. "Juan Pablo, you are Portuguese, never forget," she had counselled. How many times had he heard that? But what would he do when the Chinese invaded? When an endless procession of jack-booted Chinese 6-footers marched through the square? He pictured her small, shrunken frame, curled and wrinkly, weak and tender. If only Lord Martin knew. They could arrive at any time. What would he do when the Chinese come goose-stepping down La Plaza Republica? George. Yes, Wan? If the Chinese do invade. There was a stiff rap at the presidential door. Hinges whined. El Presidente, news. Lord Martin and Juan Pablo turned. Juan imposed his stern face. No hint of his inner turmoil escaped. Each wrinkle and whisker denoted precision, determination, and absolute authority. Come. Bad news, El Presidente. Juan Pablo's jaw rose, his upper and lower molars sliding against one another. He grumbled like a sore lion. They have bombed Caraluja. Juan Pablo wished that Lord Martin had not heard this. He tried hard not to swallow. And Jose Fantini wants to see you, immediately, El Presidente. He's worse than the Chinese, thought Juan. Juan felt his scalp itching. He had to scratch it. All right. He flung his limp arm dismissively at his secretary. If you will excuse me, George, I have things to attend to. Lord Martin was lost in his cigar. He was abroad, out of England, and consequently felt no compunction to respond. Foreigners were always in 6s and 7s over one thing or another. He hadn't flown halfway around the globe to listen to Juan witter on about the workers. Juan was not so lucky. He had a lump on his scalp which demanded scratching, and the more he rubbed it, the more it hurt. The hurt was consolation for his recriminations, and consequently he could not stop himself from scratching it. It would go away if only he could scratch it a little bit more. Juan wanted to quiz Lord Martin and be assured by him that China were of no consequence, that Lord Martin was capable of handling the inevitable challenge to sovereignty posed by Chinese operations. I hope you won't mind me staying here to finish my cigar. Lord Martin's hand was wafting smoke everywhere. The whole building had been made non-smoking, as part of the state's modernization policy. Does the daft old Englishman know what he's doing, thought Juan. One thing, George. We are in a delicate situation with Jose Fantini. He has caused a lot of problems. Local hoodlums, nothing you can't handle. The Lord blew out a cone of smoke. He is back to buy with money from China. Lots of money. I see. In that case, you will do me a favor. Yes, of course, anything for you, Lord Martin. Could you order me some tea? This pot is a little cold. Of course, George. We're done for, he thought. I will have it arranged on my way out. He is crazy. Juan could not bring himself to consider his predicament, and so left to face Jose.